for the environment that she's in.
And do you think that, I had a question, I can't remember it right now, but it'll come back to me. But with the whole, with the whole idea of taking the blame not working in monogamy, but it does work in your setup, the three girls in love thing. So what about that dynamic changes his relationship to blame? Because now I'm thinking it's going to be 3 women blaming him, which is just going to maximize his blame.
Absolutely. It's gonna massively maximize it. Understand that the reason why there's a fantastic quote. There's a great couple doing a TEDx talk on YouTube. I don't remember what their name or what the name of the was, but what they said, there was a fantastic quote. They said, if a couple tells you that they never argue, they either have no passion in their marriage or they're lying through their teeth.
Sure.
Right? So, and we never fight. And that's what's, no, we never argue. I always take the blame. Okay. Because that's what actually works in monogamy, but I take the blame in such a way that I don't care. Like she can just tell me that I did something wrong, but I won't care. I'll tease her about it instead. You know what I mean? And I'll do something like that, but I'll also take the responsibility of trying to change. The only problem is that there's tons of things that I need to change because we spend a lot of time together in the home because I have an online business, whatever, right? So I'm never out all the time. I'm a lot at home. So there's a lot of things I need to change and improve on. But in general, it also allows our relationship to be a fantastic friend relationship. She never has to worry about me going out and trying to find someone else. She trusts me. She has tons of safety and security, but the passion, like we have great sex, there's nothing wrong with it, but the passion, the kind of like, type of experience you would want to have, the lust that we sometimes talk about, that's the thing that's absent. But that would be there if she did not look down on me all the time. Does that make sense? Like, so if she looks down on me most of the time because she has to correct me because the environment that I've created is not satisfactory, then her brain, the biggest sexual organ, will not function to its optimal procedures in the bedroom. Okay. So no matter what techniques or whatever I learn or whatever I study online, or you know what I mean? Like I could study for 10 years about sexuality. Actually, at one point in our marriage, we're trying to figure things out. We had sex 165 days in a row to find out if sex was the problem. We were committed to figuring out, why is our relationship not working? Why are you not attracted to me? What's going on? This is a long process we've gone through. 165 days straight. Like there was a lot of babysitters here and there and a lot of things that had to add up in order for that to work. But we made it happen because we were committed to figuring out what was the real issue. And sex wasn't the real issue. It was what was going on up here and her wires and her looking down on me continuously because of whatever I've created, if that makes sense.
That does make sense. You have a really amazing way of explaining things.
I hope so. Like sometimes I don't. Sometimes I'm like, I finished a paragraph and I'm like, did they understand what I was saying?
Well, I think the reason why it makes so much sense to me the way you explain it is because that is the dynamic of my parents. So it's like you're describing stuff that I have firsthand seen throughout my life.
And if people are observant, they'll actually all be able to recognize what I'm talking about because it's everywhere in society. If you just open up your ears and actually listen and ask questions about people's relationships, and you have close enough relationships that they're actually open with you about it, you will see exactly what I'm saying.
Yes, and there is a lot that I agree with you on. I guess, and there's a lot that I think that we have more similarities than differences, but I think But I think that we both agree that that dynamic is very problematic. It's a very toxic dynamic, and it is a very common one amongst the world. But I guess our ways of fixing it are just very, very different. Because like for me, I feel like I actually don't feel like the problem is monogamy. I feel like the problem is a lack of God in the relationship. And that when I do see monogamy working out really, really well for people, they usually tend to be very connected to God. And whereas it's like, if God is not part of the equation, then maybe the solution is the three girls in love dynamic or something. But I feel like there's two. It's like we're both together, and then it branches off into two different like pathways to take. It's either like invite God into the relationship, invite God into the monogamous commitment to each other, or get your needs met through a different way, like maybe through what you're suggesting. Do you know what I mean?
Well, what if God is included in the three girls in love system? Because let's look at it from this perspective. I've grew up being a pastor, so I've studied the Bible in and out. I understand. I was a missionary for 2 years in Africa, in South Africa.
you were in.
Yeah, I'm quite religious, and I understand that. I don't go to any organized religion right now, but I understand that God equals truth. Okay, so if we understand that, then I'm with you, because the more you align yourself with the truth, yes, the more your relationship is going to work, obviously, because my definition for truth is that which works in the long run in the big scheme of things. So if the truth is applied and you're aligning yourself with the truth, then yes, everything's going to be beautiful. So, but you're saying from a standpoint of let's have God be the center and focus of this family. And yes, I agree there. There's definitely amazing things that can happen from that. But very often it's the women taking the blame because they feel that they are sinning and they feel that they don't measure up. And there's a lot of guilt that happens because of the religious facet of things. Like basically the Bible is filled with blaming women. And religion is actually very responsible for the conditions we are in today of men blaming women and saying that she shouldn't be promiscuous, she shouldn't be a slut, she shouldn't be this, that, and the other because the Bible says so. But they've never thought about it. Well, maybe it's us men that have created this by blaming women. How about we try to understand women instead of blaming them? How about we try to understand why people do what they do instead of blaming them and say that they're just sinners? If they just listen to God, if they just, follow Jesus, then everything would be solved. There's a reason why people do things. And we're actually created perfectly. Like if you believe in God, then we should believe that his creations are perfect, meaning that the way that we're designed is according to nature. And if we just follow that nature and align ourselves with the truth, then everything's going to be absolutely amazing.
Yes, I mean, I agree with you there. I guess our definition of I agree with you with the definition of truth, that which works in the long term in the grand scheme of things. But maybe the exactly what that truth is something that I maybe we disagree on. Because I feel like the polygamy stuff with the three girls in love, I don't think it actually would work in the grand scheme of things overall. But maybe it would. Maybe it would. I don't know. But yeah, I guess we had that conversation in the last video we did where we talked about how women's sexuality is a bit more fluid, where maybe are a bit more inherently bisexual. And I told you too that when I was, deep into my porn addiction, that I was masturbating to the women and not to the men.
Right.
But when I think about doing sexual stuff with women in my real life, the thought of that like disgusts me almost. And
sex with the women or the man having sex with the man? I mean the women having sex with the man. Which part?
I guess both, but even if it was just me and another woman, and there was no man, let's just say, even if she was very beautiful, maybe it's even a woman who I could have masturbated to watching her on a video.
Okay,
but
sure.
But in real life, I feel like there's something that doesn't translate from the screen to in real life, where it's like in real life, the idea of putting my hand on her, or like, I'm not want to get too graphic in this, but doing sexual acts to her grosses me out. Okay. But when it's like there's something that doesn't translate from a screen to the in-person stuff, I guess. And what's interesting is that when I was watching porn, I would never, ever masturbate to the men. But in real life, I enjoy sex with men. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. Very interesting. Well, I mean, we actually kind of figured a part of it out. I mean, the new thing of you being grossed out by being with the beautiful woman, like that one's really interesting. And like I've mentioned in the past, I believe that has to do with masculinity, the fact that you have a lot of burdens, and that, like, if you look back to your teenage years, your late teenage years, we've spoken about this before, and you mentioned yourself that, it was intriguing, and it was, I was maybe bi-curious secretly inside here, but didn't tell anyone about it. Or maybe it's from an environment of no one telling you that's, that it's okay. And or basically having read the Bible saying that homosexuality is bad, or I don't know what it is that grosses you out, but I just know that masculinity is attracted to its own gender alone. Like, I recognize what you're recognizing because I'm leaning towards masculinity because that's what I've been working towards my entire adult life. And because of that, I'm not attracted to my own gender at all. Like, do you understand what I mean? Like, the more feminine I would have been, the more I'd look at men and be like, oh, wow, you know what I mean? But the more masculine you get, the more you're like, that's no, I don't want it. Do you understand what I mean? But it's when women manage to remain in their femininity, they remain in their bi-curiosity as well. And actually, the act of preparation, the act of preparing another woman, your best friend, to be in a blissful relationship with your man and her man, can be an absolutely amazing experience. But anyway, just walking, I actually figured out we were talking about this, and you have helped us to solve so many things in the equation. I love it when people disagree with me because I always figure out what actually is happening. And we figured out why it is that you feel like this when you think about your man being with another woman.
Okay, I would love to hear what you think.
And what we were thinking is that in 3 Girls in Love mindset, it needs to be 3, not 2. And because women very often are now creatures and they personalize everything to the core, like, what actually happens when I talk to you about your fantasy man in the future, we don't even know who it is, but you have already right now a connection with that guy. Even though you don't know who it is, in your brain, you're just like, that's my guy. Okay. And so if I tell you that he is supposed to have sex with another woman, to you, being a now creature, thinking about it right now, would make it seem like you're being left out. and that he's actually being adulterous and cheating on you. And that's why you would feel that repulsiveness feeling.
Sure. I think that's definitely part of it. But there's also a very just physical sensation that I feel to even let's just say it was happening right here, right now in this room. Let's say that the man and the other two women were here. I don't know. I guess I'm a very sanitary person. And
hygienic.
Yeah. If you get the direction I'm going in, just fluids getting on other people, fluids being exchanged through multiple people, saliva getting on other, it's just ugh, I don't know.
even if they're family, it's still nasty, right?
Yeah, it is. And I just I don't know, with the idea of kissing a guy and then him kissing another woman, then kissing me again, I just feel oh, that's so much saliva being exchanged around. I don't know. It's these very just physical disgust kind of things. And with another woman, I don't know if I should say this or not because it's so graphic, but I guess we can cut it out later if we decide it's too much. But, the idea of putting my mouth on a woman, any part of her, any area of her, I don't know, it just it grosses me out, the wetness, or I don't know, just something about it. Whereas with a guy, I don't have the same feeling. It's it's very appealing for me to do that with a guy. Yeah, right. I don't know. It's just yeah.
I hear you, and I think maybe also some part of it could be that it's a stranger. You don't know, but I mean,
maybe. Could be.
Right, because you have a relation to your fantasy guy, because that's what you've always looked for. That's what you've always dreamt of. That's what you've always been searching for. So you have that kind of connection already right now. But a stranger woman coming into that picture is kind of just so foreign to you, from my perspective, that it's just it's a stranger. I don't want any part of that. I don't want any juices. I don't want anything. That makes sense. So I don't know. Maybe it's that, or maybe not. I'm also still understanding how this all works. I just know that it works, right?
Yeah,
but there's very few women I've been able to talk to in detail about why they're opposed to it and why they disagree, because they just no, never. You know what I mean? Instead of actually let's have a conversation. Why are you against it? What's the problem? You know what I mean? Because women just don't manage to get past the part of let's talk about it type thing.
I love talking about stuff. I love like you, I love talking to people who have different opinions than me and disagree with me a lot. I love that. I actually don't even really like talking to people who agree with me all the time, because I just feel okay, I'm not getting anything out of this. but it's it feels by you know what it feels like, and not to what's the word, degrade your philosophy or something, because that's what I'm trying to do. But it almost
ended.
So I told you before that I was a vegan for almost 6 years, and I had recently stopped being a vegan.
Yeah.
And I remember at the time when I was going vegan, or before I went vegan, when I was still learning about veganism, I had a similar experience to the way I'm reacting to this now, where it's the vegan people who were talking to me would present all these arguments that made so much sense. And it was okay, but my body just genuinely feels like it wants some eggs. It genuinely feels like I need to eat some eggs. And then they would be like, no, but you don't really need the eggs. Like, you're tricking yourself into thinking you need the eggs when actually you can get all your nutrients from plants and like all this kind of stuff. And it's like, okay. It's like logically everything makes sense. And it's like, I had this feeling, it was like, no, I need these eggs. I was like, you know what? Whatever, I'm going to try it. Logically, all the arguments make sense. And I don't see any downside to this, so I'm going to do it. So I did it, and I lasted for almost 6 years on it until I was noticing health issues. And it's like, okay, I need to like get out of this mentality that I was brainwashing myself into. And then it's like going back to my original instincts alleviated myself of those health issues, not being a vegan anymore, where it's like
you unburdened yourself.
Yeah, and I've almost seen this in a similar way, where it's like, no, I have this feeling in me that monogamy is what's right for me, or that that I don't feel a sexual desire to be with other women.
Right.
But it's like the arguments you're presenting logically, they all make so much sense, and it's like, maybe I could, you know, I don't want to use the word brainwash, but maybe I could adopt that mentality and
brainwash myself. Let's see if this works. You know, it's kind of like my facts don't care about your feelings, but your feelings don't care about my facts, right?
Sure, it could be, or is it like, because that's actually what the vegans used to say to me too. They'd be like your feelings don't matter. It doesn't matter that you feel like you need eggs or something like that.
Feelings do matter.
Well, right, but
that's what they said. Yeah, I understand.
Right, like the point of view that a lot of vegans had was that it's an emotional thing that people are attached to eating animal products, when in reality the truth is that you don't need them. But then I came to realize that no, it's actually the exact opposite, that your feelings made you go vegan, but the fact is that you need the animal products. But But now,
during that time as a vegan, though, was there any time when you felt repulsed by chicken or steak or things like that?
Not exactly, because I grew up vegetarian, so my parents never fed me meat ever. But I was always surrounded by people who were eating meat. So I grew up being very used to seeing meat all around me, like at my friends' houses or at school and stuff like that. So I've never really felt disgust. But I know what you're getting at. There are a lot of vegans who do have that experience where they go vegan and then they feel disgusted by the meat. And maybe you're saying that, like, I'm in that mentality where I feel disgusted by being with women.
I don't know. I'm trying. Like, I'm trying really hard to not have a bias. You know what I mean? Like, the only thing I care about is the truth. Really.
Me too.
Yeah, just like the definition of truth, like that which works in the long run in the big scheme of things. Like, after my 10 flippin' years of research, I just simply haven't found anything that compares to what our system, you know, that we've developed. And yeah, people complain that, you know, I'm not living it yet and where's your proof and all that stuff. But at the same time, like, you know, where was the Wright brothers' proof of making an airplane? You know what I mean? Like, they knew, they had a vision. They knew that they could create an airplane, and they needed investors in order to make it happen. So they had to tell people, and hopefully they managed to get them to believe it so that they could actually, you know, put it into practice. So,
oh, yeah, I mean, I completely agree. I don't see that at all from that perspective, because, yeah, I mean, I think that everything starts with an idea, and that's it, you know. But but I agree, like you, I really care about the truth, and whatever the truth is, that's all I want to do. Like, yeah, that's it.
I completely agree. And just wanted to end with the things that we're actually going to talk about, which was kids and what actually changes. It's hilarious, right? But what actually happens in a relationship when the kids come along? And I've already kind of explained it in terms of, you know, burden is masculine, unburdening is feminine. And the thing is that the moment children enter into this world, it is a burden. And it's a burden that no woman should be alone in taking care of. We've spoken about in the past postpartum depression and how women very often are home alone with their kids with their kid, newborn baby, and the man is out, and that's the beginning of the burden. And the burden is 24/7 for the next 18 years until the child moves out. Right. You know, once the child becomes 5, then, you know, at least he sleeps through the night, right? But before then, it's hell to have kids. But it's also the most beautiful experience that you could have, because it's your DNA, it's mini versions of you and your favorite person in the planet, right? And you're creating this group, this family dynamic together, and most of the time there's blissful moments, but then there's just these hard times that are, in my opinion, not necessary if they were emotionally fulfilled.
Okay.
And that's the goal. The goal is to get every single individual in the family to be emotionally fulfilled. And if we prioritize that for the next generation, which are the kids, then we'll be like 100% certain that society is going to evolve and become better. The problem is that people are not being emotionally fulfilled.
Yeah, completely agree with you. Completely agree with you. It's just how those things resolve themselves that, we'll be figuring it out.
So either it's like follow what we believe God has said in the scriptures, in the Bible, right? Of monogamy is the way, even though he doesn't say that in the Bible. The Bible is filled with polygyny. Or we follow maybe what we found to be a possible solution, which I believe also has God involved in the picture.
Yeah, I mean, I love that you both are like committed to figuring this out, you know? I'm excited to see what transpires in your own marriage and everything, and how all that kind of comes into play. Like I said, I love learning about new ideas and things, but I still have that feeling in me that is just like, I am meant for monogamy.
I'm excited to see you in monogamy, because you're going to remember every single conversation we've had about, damn, he was right. Holy God. And it's like actually happening as you speak. And I'm not casting a spell on you or anything like that. It's just that it's hilarious when people are experiencing it. And I'm just wondering if they remember the things that I've told them, because it's so obvious to me now. Like I see a couple, I know exactly what's going on.
Yeah, no, you make a great point. And who knows, maybe when I meet that person, all of a sudden he's going to be like, honey, what are you watching? Oh, Men of High Value. but who
he's
knows?
He's going to like that, by the way.
What's that?
He's going to like that, by the way.
I mean, or hopefully what I would truly want is to have a successful monogamous relationship that is like the successful ones that I've seen, that I've been a witness to. Fantastic. And I think that, I don't know, I would say like one of the most successful marriages I've seen has been between a guy who I know personally, who is a farmer, and his wife. Yeah. And I feel like they do it so well, where it's like the man, he is out of the home a lot because he's tending to the crops and the animals and fulfilling those farm kind of duties. He is providing the food. He is providing the, what she needs and everything. Yeah. And she does kind of take care of stuff within the household and the kids and all that. Well, she only has one kid, but for now and everything.
Unburdened. I always state that per woman, there needs to be one child per woman every 8 years. If you have more than that, your capacity has been blown. But anyway, keep going. Yes.
Yeah, but the type of marriage they have, I feel like is so successful because they're both, I mean, from the outside, from what I can perceive, they're both very like happy. They're both very adoring of each other. She's very attracted to him because she sees him as a man, and vice versa. He's attracted to her because he sees her as a woman and like all that kind of stuff. But I think that it really feels like a godly thing, where it's like, sometimes I feel like the idea of men need to be successful and making a lot of money, sometimes I feel like that is kind of tied into more greedy desires. Because she, like the kind of woman my friend is in that marriage, she doesn't desire all of these material things. So because of that, her husband being a farmer works, because farmers don't make a lot of money, but he still is doing those masculine roles of providing for the family and protecting the family and everything. But her desires also match what his output is. Like, she doesn't care to have designer clothes or like, you know, fancy cars or anything like that. And I think like having desires that are not very lavish like that, I think that it does come from them having a very strong connection to God and what really matters in life. So it's like, hopefully that makes sense. But
it makes perfect sense, and I'm glad that you've seen examples of that as well. The problem is that they're few and far between. Why should it be only 5% or 2% of relationships that are actually successful to the outer world? Because we know half of them get divorced, and 3/4 of them get emotionally divorced. So you end up having, like, maybe we're lucky if 25% of all marriages are the way that you're describing it. Okay, like that. I don't believe that it's that high. It's probably around the 5% or 10%. However, I want a system that is 95% successful. Like, it's not acceptable that a family is led by a relationship that succeeds 5% or 10% or 20% of the time. That means that 80% of the time people are failing. That's not okay. And everyone can succeed, and everyone should be able to succeed if the setting is set up in such a way that it's possible. And I'm stating that 3 Girls in Love actually, if set up correctly with the right guy who has been prepared in advance for such a relationship, that's the only thing that is needed for this. If the man is prepared, the 3 women, it just creates, in my opinion, an 80 to 95% success rate that family is going to last and actually be emotionally fulfilling.
It's a great closing.
So, but that's just my thinking on the subject. Check out my channel if it's interesting.
Yeah, Men of High Value. And are you still posting on Girls of High Value? I haven't checked that out lately.
Absolutely. Okay. So it's Girls of High Value.
Yeah.
Sounds good. Sounds good.
And I guess in closing, for me, I feel like I agree with you. A lot of marriages are unsuccessful, and for me, I feel like the very few monogamous marriages that do work is due to a very strong connection to God, which is very rare. Which I think is very rare. I think that most people don't have a strong connection to God, like at least. What's that?
I'm like, why is that? That's a very good question itself, and it's probably its own video. Why don't people have a strong connection to God? Why are women moving away from God? Why are people not believing or not going to church anymore? Why are they not reading the Bible? Why aren't they? Because if it's the truth, then they would everyone would gravitate towards it. Because we're designed to desire truth, all of us. Every single one of us has this light or burning desire inside of us for the truth, for that which works. And so obviously what we've grown up with, the Christianity or Hinduism or Muslim, faith that we have, there's a reason why people leave it. And the reason is what has been going on has not been working. So either we don't understand the nature of God, and it doesn't solve all of our emotional issues and needs and problems, or some other reason. But I believe that there's just, if everything was correct that we've been taught for thousands of years, then we wouldn't have these issues today. If Christianity as taught in the Bible, exactly how it's in the Bible, then no one would leave the churches, and there wouldn't be so many different churches. Everyone would be in unity about the truth. So anyway, just my rant on that one.
Maybe that should be our next video, because I love that topic. Yeah, I mean, I personally think that the reason why religion hasn't worked for a lot of people is not because of God himself. I think it's because of, I think it's really because of the incorrect ways that people have taught religion. Like,
right.
People misinterpret things all the time, or I don't know, like it's a whole other conversation to get into, but I do think though what is interesting is that I have noticed that people who are very interested in the truth, somehow a lot of those people end up finding Jesus. Like, a lot of people who are very interested in finding the truth, they end up taking this path that eventually gets them to God or something.
And I agree with it. And I'm a Jesus fan as well. So,
I don't know if I'm a Christian or not. I don't even know. Like, I don't know. But
well, at least you're a believer that there's something out there that's guiding us, and you're trying to find it, right? That's the whole point. And like you said, most people are eventually led to finding Jesus because every story is really about him. Like the Hercules story, it's about Jesus, right?
Interesting.
Thor and Odin, it's about Jesus. You know what I mean? Like every story is basically trying to explain that there's going to be someone who's half human, half God, is going to come down, live among us, and then he's going to sacrifice himself for humanity. And it's just completely logical why he would do so. So, let's have that discussion another time. But I love the topic myself, and there's a lot of misunderstanding about the topic. It needs to be logical, right? Truth has to be logical. At the same time, it needs to be something that everyone can agree on. Eventually, we will all agree on the truth, because the truth is what lasts the longest, which means that lies are going to be eventually, disappear, because as time goes on and things evolve, we're all going to move towards the truth.
Working towards the truth, exactly.
So we're going to find it, and eventually we're going to arrive. And that's what's so exciting about this journey, because God has allowed us this journey so that we can figure out the truth on our own. And he doesn't come down and just tell us what it is. We kind of all have to go through it ourselves. So anyway.
It's beautiful. It's great. Yeah.
Thank you so much
for this. Yeah, this was amazing. By the way, for the people, I do get DMs sometimes from people being like, "Why are you talking to that guy? That guy's such a misogynist. Like, why do you feature him on your channel?"
And so much, it's like been like 4 videos or something.
Yeah, but yeah, just keep in mind that, like, I love talking to people who have opposing viewpoints, and I think that the best thing we can do is always open ourselves up to hearing the other side, because I think that is really what allows for progress to happen. But Joseph, are you still there? I don't know if you froze or not.
The best thing we can do is to open ourselves up to
to opposing viewpoints. Yeah, so thank you so much for joining me. Thank you guys for watching. Be sure to check out Joseph's channels, Men of High Value and Girls of High Value, which will be in the description box below. I guess we'll put part 1 up on yours and maybe part 2 up on mine or something. We'll figure it out. But yeah, thank you so much. And please leave a comment with your thoughts, anything that you have questions on, opinions. We would love to hear from you.
Awesome. See you next time.
See you.
All right.